Hello and welcome. My name is Lexi, and today we're talking about a few of my favorite things: Fude brushes and lipsticks. And also, we are going to do a quick comparison of the Tom Ford and Cle de Peau concealer. Let's go ahead and start with those. Now, I just want to mention that there are timestamps, so if there is a section you're not interested in, go ahead, skip over it. And then these are the two concealers. So I wanted to compare these side by side. I do have a video already talking about this Tom Ford concealer. This is the Traceless Soft Matte Concealer. This is the new one that retails for $60 US. And I wanted to compare these because I think when we saw the initial photos of this, I know I felt this way, but I think a lot of other people also thought it might be more similar to the Cle de Peau Stick Concealer. In reality, these two are truly nothing alike, aside from the fact that they're both stick concealers. So I'm going to go ahead and swipe these on my hand so you can see. In the Tom Ford, I have shades 0 and 0. Now, you can see that this, again, it's called the Traceless Soft Matte. It's got a little bit of luminosity and a little bit of sheen to it. So it's not going to be a flat matte. And you can see the texture of this is going to be thin, has a little bit more slip and glide from a silicone type texture. So although I mentioned that this Tom Ford concealer, and by the way, this is how much product you have in here, I cannot find the actual gram size. I must have thrown out the box and it's not written on here. But anyway, this, although it feels like there is silicone in here, and there are some silicone products, they're kind of far down on the ingredient list. Really, this is going to be more of like a blend of different waxes and oils, as well as some powders, which is what's going to give it that soft matte finish. Now, one other thing I'd like to know is this concealer, when you look up the stats online, it says made in Italy, but my particular one, when I peel back the sticker on the bottom, mine says made in Japan. So just something to note there. Now, I would like to mention that the Tom Ford concealer does have a better shade range. There are a few more shades in the Tom Ford, and I feel like they have, lighter and deeper shades compared to the Cle de Peau. So the Cle de Peau I have in the lightest shade, which is 1 Ivory. And this is 5 grams of product, by the way, in here. And this is made in Japan. You can see just looking at this that the texture here is going to be thicker. It's more putty-like. This is our 5 grams of product. So I feel like the Tom Ford is going to be slightly smaller in product size because we have about the same height. The Tom Ford is actually a little bit smaller and the diameter is smaller. So I would say this is probably about 3.5 grams would be my guess just by looking at it, versus 5 grams for the Cle de Peau. And I have used this one a little bit, but honestly, use so little of this that one of these can last me many years of everyday use. Because this is going to be a thicker, more full coverage product, more putty-like. You really want to kind of dab it in softly, and you really don't need much. The Tom Ford is going to be a thinner, more of a brightening look under the eye, whereas the Cle de Peau is going to be more of something you want to cover and give you more of that seamless finish with your foundation, whereas the Tom Ford will give you a little bit of coverage, but it's really giving you a little bit more brightening and hydration under the eye. So for people who have difficulty with like dry skin under the eyes and so forth, I think the Tom Ford is a better choice because it does offer a little bit of hydration and it provides a more hydrated look under the eyes as well. Now, let me go ahead and show you a side-by-side application comparison so you can see these. All right, we are taking a look at the Cle de Peau concealer and the Tom Ford Stick Concealer. These are very different, but we're going to do side-by-side comparisons of them so you can see the differences on your own. We are starting with the under eye area, and for both concealers, I am going to be using my ring finger to get a little product on. I prefer this versus actually swiping with the stick on the skin. And see, this is one layer patted on of the Tom Ford concealer. And now on the other side here, we're going to do the Cle de Peau concealer. And I am using shade 1 Ivory in Cle de Peau, and the Tom Ford is shade 0 and 0 Blanc. So here's the Cle de Peau. You can see that the Cle de Peau is a much deeper shade than the Tom Ford. And I do think, I'm moving to my middle finger just because there's a little too much product on my ring finger. I do think that the Tom Ford shade range is much better than the Cle de Peau shade range. But you can see putting those on, the consistencies are very different and the coverage levels are different. So looking at the under eye concealer, just one layer of each, you can see that the Tom Ford is going to be a lighter coverage, almost not quite a medium. So it's light to medium, but you're still on the lower level of medium coverage concealer. Whereas the Cle de Peau is more of a true full cover concealer. So that's gonna make a difference in coverage, but you can also tell that there's a textural difference between the two. And the Tom Ford has a bit more slip and glide to it, has a bit more of a silicone type texture to it, very thin and smooth, whereas the Cle de Peau is more putty-like. And again, it's a less is more approach, most definitely with the Cle de Peau. I mean, I think it's always less is more with concealer, but specifically with this Cle de Peau formula, because it is thicker, it's a little bit more putty-like, you really only need a little bit of product. So this is what the concealer looks like under the eyes with one layer. Let's go ahead and add a second. Okay, so here's the Tom Ford, and you can see just looking at my finger here, waiting for that to focus, but you can see that this is going to be a thinner texture, and you can see a little bit of that luminosity, that sheen from there. It's definitely got kind of a creamier texture to it. But again, it's almost more like a silicone texture. So this concealer is a bit more hydrating and again, lighter in coverage. Okay, and now we're looking at the Cle de Peau, and you can see here the texture of my finger here. It's going to be a bit more matte. It's more of a putty-like texture, and yeah, it's a little bit thicker. So aside from even the color, you can see that the performance of it is going to be a little different. And I always like to tap this out with a clean finger as well, just to kind of make sure that there is nothing gathered in the lines, no excess. And these are the two. So I'm in the process of putting on the rest of my makeup. I'm smudging in the Bobbi Brown Longwear Cream Shadow Stick in Smoky Topaz. And I wanted to show you how the under eye area looks after, I think this has been like 5 or 6 minutes. So I apply foundation and blush, and that's it. So I'm going to bring you in closer. So this is the side with the Tom Ford. You can see I already have some creasing here. So I'm going to tap that out. Once I tap that out like once or twice towards the beginning, it usually stays pretty well throughout the day without any extra issues. But you can see that the Cle de Peau side, I don't have that issue. However, again, the color on this is definitely not as good as the Tom Ford. All right, so I've had my makeup on now. It's been 30 minutes since I applied the concealers. Let me just go ahead and show you up close one more time. All right, so this is the side with the Tom Ford, and it's a little bit harder to see. There really isn't any real creasing, maybe a slight gathering there, but nothing major. And then this side with the Cle de Peau, again, that's about the same. No real creasing or gathering there either. So after that initial tap out for the Tom Ford, they have both held up well. So I hope that was helpful. I think both concealers are great. It just really depends what you are looking for. Price point wise, they're probably about comparable, although the Tom Ford is at a less expensive price because of the product amount difference. They're going to be pretty comparable. I would have to say though that the Cle de Peau, you can probably get more use out of that per application than the Tom Ford, just because of the texture and consistency of that. Next, we're also going to talk about some of my favorite lipsticks today, Valde lipsticks, but we're going to go ahead and move that to the end. I have something I find very exciting that I want to share with you. Now, for those of you who have been watching my channel for a long time, you might remember that in the holiday season of 2021, I had a package of Fude brushes that I ordered, and they went missing. And it was not the seller's fault. I ordered from Fude Japan. Toshiya's fantastic. I had ordered a whole bunch of Hakuhodo brushes that, you know, were at that time we were about to have that Hakuhodo increase, and they were changing a lot of the lines so that they were increasing the synthetic content essentially. And I also had like the holiday sets for that season from Chikuhodo in there and Hakuhodo. And DHL delivered my package to the wrong house, and they essentially refused to investigate because, you know, in 2021 we were having all these, you know, delivery issues, short staff and everything. And guess what? So yesterday during the middle of the day, the doorbell rang, and I wasn't going to answer because I was actually in the middle of doing something, but I did. And there was a woman standing there with my box. So my box of Fude brushes from almost a year and a half ago have now finally arrived. So I guess, you know, DHL had delivered it to her house. I'm assuming that they delivered it way back then and not recently, although she didn't really want to talk about it. So, but she said that her daughter opened everything, and you know, it's just been sitting there. And actually the brushes themselves are still in their individual sealed packages, but just the major box was open. So this has just been sitting in her house, and she finally brought it by, and I'm just so ecstatic that I was finally able to get these, because I thought it was a lost cause. And I did try to reorder. Toshiya from Fude Japan, he was so helpful. He tried to source, you know, what he could, but a lot of the items I had ordered were unavailable at that time. And DHL was not helpful with the whole process. You know, we had tracking and everything, but they delivered it to an address, and it was not mine. It actually isn't, it's like 30 minutes from here, so it's not like a neighbor or anything like that either. And yeah, you know, unfortunately, DHL was not helpful. I had put out like, you know, information on a neighborhood listserv looking for this. I drove around for months looking for this box. And finally, you know, the lady dropped it off. My address was written on there correctly and everything. So I was just so excited to get it. So I wanted to share with you what I had ordered. Now, first, I had ordered this Hakuhodo Cherry Blossom set. Now, they have since made this more of a permanent set. Not that it's necessarily always available, but it's going to be a recurring set, and occasionally they change out some of the brushes. That's kind of what they've decided to do with the Cherry Blossom, because these were just so popular. I did end up replacing this set. So this one was available, so I did purchase this one last year. It came back for this past holiday season. So I actually have a review of this one already. One of the reasons I really liked this set and the one that they just came out with, which is the same, is this one still, aside from the lip brush, we're looking at natural hair brushes here. So these are, for the most part, undyed goat hair brushes. And I absolutely love the handles on here. You can see you've got kind of this light pink to a brighter pink gradient. And you can see the beautiful cherry blossom on there. So they've made this like a limited edition special set, and there's also like a little bit of sparkle throughout the handles. So I was really happy to get this. So it does come with a pouch. So yeah, great set in my opinion. Happy to get that. But everything else here, aside from maybe one or two lone brushes, I was not able to replace. So let me go ahead and show those to you. All right, so this was one of the Chikuhodo holiday sets. You can see you've got these really beautiful deep purple to black gradient handles. You've got these gold stars on here. And this brush in particular was what really intrigued me for the set because of this shape here. You can see it's, it's like compressed on the front and the back, but you kind of have, I don't know why I want to call it a moon shape. It's sort of like a moon shape brush. And yeah, so these two here are some eye brushes, but it was this brush in particular that really called to me from this set. And I can't wait to wash these and try them out. Now, I'm not really sure which holiday set came with the case and what did it. This one, you know, is not in its big outer bag anymore, but you can see, you know, one or both of them came with some sort of case. And this is the other set. So we've got these beautiful blue to black gradient handles, also with the gold stars. So beautiful. All right, so this is the blue set, and this one here's a powder brush. It's dyed Chikuhodo. You can see this isn't really misshapen. It's like an angled oval brush, which I think looks really cool. And then the cheek brush here is actually a mix of squirrel and the dyed Chikuhodo. And we've got a whole bunch of different varieties here, like pine squirrel, water badger, and so forth. So I really want to try these, and the handles were so pretty. So really happy that those arrived, because these sets, by the time we knew my package was not going to be found, it was just too late to replace them. I had also ordered this Kihitsu set, and this has Kolinsky brushes, and look at the handles on here. So this is a set of 3 brushes. We have like an eyebrow brush here, and then we have, I can't even remember, this looks like a lip brush in here, and an eyeshadow brush. So let me just show you this handle up close. Look at that. It's, purple is my favorite color, so I had to get this. It's gorgeous. It's like a metallic purple. And I don't really have, I think I have 1 or 2 Kolinsky brushes, but I had really wanted to try some. And at this time when I ordered these, I didn't have any Kolinsky brushes, so that was like a new thing to me. And yeah, can't wait to play with them. And then Fude Japan. Fude Japan, Toshiya, he has his own line of brushes. They are very similar to the Suku Squirrel brushes that were discontinued. And he had created this shape. This is, I believe, the F brush that had just come out at that time. So I had ordered this one to go with it. And I have to say, Toshiya was so kind when my package went missing and we weren't able to replace everything. He did send me a set of his brushes, as sort of like compensation, even though it wasn't his fault. So, it was totally DHL's fault. He wasn't receiving any like insurance or anything back on that. Like the whole thing was a complete disaster. So I felt terrible. Everybody kind of missed out. And it was so nice of him to, help me out with that and offer that. So anyway, this is one of his brushes. If you've been looking for the Suku Squirrel brushes that have been discontinued and go for exorbitant prices on eBay, definitely check out the Fude Japan line. Those and the Kiwami brushes from Kairedo, they're all like by the same manufacturer. They're all very, very similar. So I would definitely recommend those. All right, and then these are 2 Kokutan brushes from Hakuhodo that I had ordered. And this series now has synthetic fibers mixed into it, but these were the natural hair ones. So one of these is the S brush. I believe that's this one here. And then the T brush. And I believe this one is Gray Squirrel. And I'm not sure what this one is. It looks kind of like Pine Squirrel, but it's softer. I'll have to look that up and see what that one is. But we've got kind of these ebony wood handles here. I love the characters on there. Really beautiful. And just so you know, when you get some of these Hakuhodo Fude brushes, they do come sealed in their own package. A lot of the Chikuhodo ones, it's kind of a fold over taped down bag. These are actually like fully sealed where I have to cut them open, and then there's an inner bag as well. So just so you know, and then, you've got all of the certifications for the fact that they are Fude brushes on there as well. So now we're moving into my Hakuhodo brushes. So this was one that I had really, really wanted, and I couldn't get it again in all natural hair afterwards. This is the G5518. Oh my goodness, it is just so incredibly soft, and I don't have anything this size or shape, so I cannot wait to try it out. I think it'll be nice for like powder, highlight, probably not blush based on this shape here, because it is a little bit more angled at the tip here, so I think it's going to be better for, like highlight or targeted areas, going around the nose and so forth, but really all right, and this is another Hakuhodo. I don't know what number this is. One of the things I hate about the Hakuhodo is they only have the identification numbers on some of their brushes. Anyway, this one here is a mix of fibers. It's all natural hair. Again, we've got, I believe this was squirrel and goat, incredibly soft. This is another one that I wasn't able to replace with the exact same brush, but I did reorder a similar brush from Hakuhodo. The one that I already have is just a little bit bigger in shape than this one. All right, and these are the rest of them. So let's take a look at this one first. I don't know what number this one is, but again, this is another one that I had really wanted. It's just so incredibly soft. You can see the beautiful fibers on here and this angle here. So this actually came in one of those thicker plastic sleeves here to keep that pristine. I cannot wait to try this out. And then this one here is the G5560. Oh, you can see a little dust coming out of that one. Very soft. This one is a bit stiffer, not quite as soft as the previous one that I just showed you, but you can see we do have a similar appearance here. And yeah, I mean, look at these. So beautiful. And I was really intrigued with this shape. So I ended up getting two other brushes with a similar shape. This one here, again, is not labeled either. Yeah, a little dust coming up. This one is actually even softer. That is squirrel hair. And I think this one is squirrel as well. This is G55558. And this is a little bit smaller. So these two are actually the similar size. This one is the 5560. So 5560 and 5558. And then the bigger one here, I'm not sure of. All right, and this one here is another Hakuhodo brush. I don't know the number of this one, but I believe this is Kolinsky hair. And Kolinsky hair you can use with liquids, creams, powders, you know, anything. So that's why they are so popular. And you can see you've got like a lot of, there's a less snap to this. It's going to be a stiffer product here. And then these are my last two. And this is the G6070. Really soft. This one here is squirrel hair. And then we have this one. I'm not sure what this one is, but I believe I have this same brush with a different hair composition. A lot of the Hakuhodo brushes you can, or at least you could before. I have to look and see now if they still do that. But you used to be able, they would have the same brush in, you know, a couple of different hair types. So yeah, you know, those were all of the brushes that I had purchased. It was a very expensive purchase. It was my biggest brush purchase ever. So when it went missing, it was just so incredibly devastating. And I just feel so incredibly lucky that it finally arrived and I was able to get everything. So I'm so ecstatic. Now let's go ahead and move on to Valde lipsticks, which are some of my favorite lipsticks. All right, so Valde lipsticks. I have featured them on my channel before. I'm going to show you the box that they come in. You know, when you order a lipstick and an armor, you get this box. They have different colors. This I gave to my daughter, so now it's got like beautiful makeup fingerprints all over it, and the sleeve on it is gone, but you can see it's still a beautiful box, and it's magnetic. She keeps some makeup in here. It's just a really nice gift set for you or for somebody else. I personally like to gift these lipsticks to myself. The first one I did was the most expensive lipstick I ever bought because of the armor. The refills are, I believe, $40 US. And, you know, I feel like that is, you know, it's on the norm. So, yeah, you know, I with the armor, you don't need to get several armors. I like to have cases for all of my lipsticks usually, but with these, I see the reason not to. And let me go ahead and show you what the armors look like. So this is the first one I ever purchased, and these are their traditional armors. They have 3 different color stories. This one here is the gunmetal. There's like a gold one, and you know, I forget. But we have a little mirror at the top, and then you can get it engraved on the Valde website if you'd like. And basically this whole thing can come out. This is your like outer tube, they call it. And then inside, this is your lipstick, twirls up. So this is actually your refill in here. So this is your inner tube, and the refill, you can just twist up on your own and twist down with your fingers. So you don't have to technically have an armor in order to use it. This is my favorite shade, Curiosity, which is, you know, a go-to shade for me. This is one of my favorite lipsticks of all time. I think it's just a gorgeous shade. I reach for it a lot. I've featured it for just over a year now. That's when I purchased my first one, you know, as one of my favorites, and it still is. But they have also come out with some other armors. So they've got some really beautiful quartz armors that are, I forget the price tag on those, but they are handmade, one of a kind, and they have that type of price tag. But they also have, this is, I believe it's called the Reflect Collection. And they have 3 different ones. I picked up all 3 of these. These are actually slightly less expensive than your traditional ones because you don't have this feather detail here. But I just added these 2 to my collection. And we've got a rose gold here and a red, beautiful metallic red here. But this one is my favorite of the armors. This is the only one that kind of has those color shifts. But look at this. So stunning. So I know I featured this one on my channel before as well. Again, they all have the mirror, and you know, you just take your refill and stick it in here, and they're really easy to switch out. Let me show you how the refills come. So these are the refills. By the way, the armors, they do come with a magnetic pouch here to put your armor in. But the refills, you can easily just, you know, carry these around as they are as well. And this, you just want to keep this outer tube here. This is where the color is labeled. It is not labeled on here, so you don't want to get rid of those. But that just snaps in there. You can easily throw that in your bag or something. But just something to know, if I take out this outer tube here, this tube here, the refill tube, does not fit in here. You can see that it is smaller. So definitely smaller in diameter. So if you're going to get an armor, you know, I would recommend getting at least one. This one, again, is my favorite. They are sold at a variety of retailers now, and they keep adding retailers. So they are at Saks, Cosbar. I think Neiman Marcus might have them as well. So you can buy these at a variety of different places. And I have to say, I love them. So anyway, I featured them on my channel a few times, and Valde actually reached out and they sent me all of their refills so that I could try their other shades. And I wanted to go through and share all of those swatches with you in case you're looking for something. So let's start with the lip swatches while I talk a little bit about the product, and then we'll move into arm swatches. So the Valde Armor with the feathers, the traditional series, those retail for $1.99 to get the armor and a refill. And then the Reflect collection, they are $1.50 for the armor and the refill. And if you'd like to get engraving, it's an extra $10 for, you know, regardless. As I mentioned, the refills are $40 US. We have one lip balm in the shade Truth. You can see it's kind of a sheer, a little bit of a brightish pink there. Kind of like a bubblegum pink with a little bit of brightness to it. And then the rest of these are all going to be what they call the Ritual Creamy Satin Lipstick. And this company was actually started by Margarita Arriagada. And she used to work for Sephora. She was actually, you know, pretty high up there in the Sephora chain. And, you know, she quit or retired, you know, she retired from her position, but she didn't retire from a career. She was in her 60s, and then she started Valde just a few years ago now. And basically, you know, the reason it's called the Ritual Creamy Satin Lipstick is because she was thinking, you know, one of her favorite memories was her mother's ritual of putting on lipstick. And that's kind of how, you know, this lipstick came about. Now, Margarita Arriagada, she always was really into empowering other women and women entrepreneurs and so forth. And so that's something that the company really does a lot of. If you follow them on Instagram, you'll see that they are constantly promoting other people and other brands, female-owned companies, and so forth. So you'll notice also as you are looking at these lip swatches, the names, a lot of the names are characteristics of powerful women. And that's just one of their, essentially one of their philosophies of their particular brand. It's part of their ethos. Now, the lipsticks themselves are a creamy satin lipstick, and they are considered to be a no-slip satin. And you can see when I glide these on that they go on you know, if you think back to that Cle de Peau concealer, when I swiped that on, they're a little bit creamier than that, but they have a bit of that grip that the concealer has as well. And that really helps it stay put because, as we know, sometimes satin lipsticks, particularly the brighter colors, can be hard to wear because of feathering, bleeding, migration throughout the day. And these lipsticks don't do that, but they still give you that satin finish on your lips. And you definitely get a lot of color payoff with just one swipe, and you can see that in these lip swatches. But you can definitely, if you want to build that up, you get a little bit more of a satin shine there, and a little bit more opacity. So overall, I have to say these are fantastic. They are very weightless on the lips. They feel comfortable. They have a variety of different plant-based polymers in there, waxes, soft powder spheres, which again will help prevent migration and so forth. And they have a variety of different skincare ingredients in here as well, as many lipsticks do now. So they've got things like hyaluronic acid and antioxidants. They're also a clean, cruelty-free vegan lipstick, which I think is so important to highlight. Now, when they say that they are a clean beauty lipstick, I mean, you can go through on their website. They have a list of everything that they have in there versus not in there. But to me, one of the things to note is there are no synthetic fragrances, no artificial flavors. Again, they're vegan, so there are no animal ingredients. There's no latex in there. And, you know, those are all things that can be issues for people. So just some things to note. They do have a very extensive list, though, on their website. If you are interested in that, just go ahead and look into, you know, they have a section called Valde Clean, and you can see everything there. So as for performance of these lipsticks, as I mentioned, they go on great. They stay put on the lips. They are still satin lipstick, so they are not going to give you all day 8 to 10 hour wear, but I can still get like 6 hours wear on here. So we're looking at something that wears a little bit longer than your traditional satin lipstick in my experience. So, and then, you know, with these deeper colors, you know, again, it's going to fade down to a stain. You can top it with lip balm and so forth to prolong that wear without having to truly touch up your lipstick. But again, these are really easy to throw in your bag if you don't want to carry a heavy armor. The refills, you know, they transport very well in a bag. But I personally love carrying the armors in a bag because every time you take that out, it's a talking point with somebody. And I find that so much fun. So let's go ahead and move on to the arm swatches. I'd love to know which ones are your favorite shades because it is so hard for me to pick a favorite here. Well, my number one favorite is Curiosity, but after that, I don't know. By the way, the shade on my lips today is Vulnerable, which is definitely up there in the running for one of my new favorites. All right, so we're gonna start off with the lip balm in Truth. So I'm gonna show you one swipe across, and then we'll go back and forth a couple times for 3 layers. So you can see how that will build up. You get kind of this soft sheer pink, really beautiful shade. And you can see it's definitely more pigmented on the lips than you might expect. Next, we have Mercy. And Mercy is kind of your warm, peachy pink nude kind of shade. So it's almost, you know, there's a little bit of brown in there. You get almost a little bit of a terracotta shade, but it's really going to be more of a peachy nude. Yet it's not overly warm. And that's one of the great things about these lipsticks are their undertones. So they have cooler shades, they have some warmer shades, but everything is still kind of close to neutral in that spectrum, which I think allows these shades to work better on a variety of different skin tones. And Margarita Arriagada, she is Latina. And so they do actually promote a lot of Latina brands as well, but they're taking into account their skin tones as well, which are often underrepresented in the market. This shade here is Irreverence. This is another one that I had purchased. I had actually purchased when I bought this armor here. And when I had purchased that one, I did the video on it. I had purchased mine from Saks instead of straight from Valde, and my refill shade was a little bit dry. So that's, I think, you know, they sent me these after they saw that as well. And, you know, this one's not. So I'm going to replace mine with this one because this is smooth and creamy, just like my Curiosity shade. So perhaps the one at Saks was just stored improperly or something. All right, and then we have Curiosity, my go-to shade here. Absolutely love this. By the way, you can see Irreverence is kind of like your bubblegum pink. It's a little bit warmer than Truth, which is cooler in tone. Curiosity is kind of your dusty rose shade. There's a touch of mauve in there, but it's really going to be a neutral dusty rose. This one here is Resilience. And you can see this has a little bit more red than Curiosity. It's almost a same shade, except it's warmer, where Curiosity is cooler. So this one is going to have a little bit more red, a little bit more orange in the base there. But we are looking at approximately the same type of depth of color as Curiosity, just a warmer version. Ebullience, this one here, I mean, you can see it looks like a neutral red here. There is a little bit of a blue undertone in here. Really beautiful, powerful red. You know, it's really hard for me to decide which red is my favorite, but this is one of them. It's kind of between this and Power, which we'll get to in just a second. But you can see there is a little bit of blue in the undertone, but it's still primarily a neutral red. So here's Power, and if you look at this in the tube, it almost looks more like a burnt red. It looks like there's a little terracotta, a little orange in there, but when you swipe it, you can see it's actually more of a fuchsia red, more berry in here, and it's definitely gonna be cooler in tone, and it's just a really beautiful berry shade red. Next, we have Subversion. This one also kind of looks more like a brick red in the bullet. You can see we still have some blue tones in here, but this is going to be your burgundy based red. This one is Faith. This is fantastic for summer. Look at this beautiful, vibrant orange here. Oh, it's so beautiful. It just reminds me of hot summer days. Really, really such a beautiful pop of color. I really like this one. This is Vulnerable, which is the shade that I have on my lips right now. And you can see it's kind of like a fuchsia pink, a little bit of berry in there, but it's really kind of a fuchsia pink without too much blue. There is definitely blue in there, but it's not going to be overly blue. There's a little bit of warmth to kind of balance that out a little bit. All right, we have two left. This one here is Fearless. And wow, you know, on Instagram, I've seen Margarita Arriagata wear this and it is stunning on her, but you can see this is kind of like a bright orchid shade here. This one definitely has more blue. Makes me think of a Lisa Eldridge shade, you know, really beautiful kind of orchid pinky purple kind of shade. And then our last shade here is Passion, which is described as a cocoa, but actually has, I'm gonna kind of put this, I'm gonna put this on the side here. It has some eggplant in here. Look at that. So there's definitely some purple in there. It's purple with a little bit of cocoa. So I would say it's a mix of chocolate cocoa with eggplant, and really beautiful shade. I love the depth of color, the complexity of the tones in there. Give it a little bit more life and really update it and make it more modern than like a 90s brown. So we're just going to do a few quick comparisons. You know, I don't have a lot of space, so we're not doing a ton of comparisons, but I did want to take a look at a couple of these Guerlain lipsticks. These are just reds here. So this is $8.80. This comes in matte or satin, but I just want to go ahead and show you the $8.80 shade here, how that kind of compares. You can see this is going to be a little bit warmer than this shade here, which is Ebullience. And I don't know why I always have a hard time saying that word. But then this one here is $7.70 Velvet. This is the red Vanda shade that just came out from Guerlain. And you can see this one's going to be a little bit more pink. These are going to be pretty sheer, but again, those colors are not going to really match up with the Valde shades. I also wanted to take a look at a few Lisa Eldridge shades here. So I actually put my Lisa Eldridge shades, my Velvet lipsticks, in two little view sets, and I do have a short showing how I did this, but you know, I had too many broken tubes, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you these. We're gonna start off with Velvet Carnival. So here's Velvet Carnival. Let me go ahead and put that down here so you can see how that compares. You can see that it is going to be more pink than Fearless here, and it's actually more pink and less berry than the Vulnerable shade as well. This one here is going to be Skyscraper Rose. Let's put that one right there next to it. That's going to be a warmer version. And then here is Lisa Eldridge's Ribbon. And you can see that that is going to be more similar to the Ebullience shade from Valde there. So I would say that these are a pretty good match. So if you're looking for a satin version of Ribbon, that might be a good alternative there. They're pretty close. Let me just show you that side by side again. Okay, so here's Ribbon and Ebullience. You can see how close those really are. And then this one here is Velvet Midnight, which has more purple than Passion does. It's more eggplant. And then we have Decade, which is going to be more of a true brown. And then this one here is Myth. Let's put Myth right here. You can see that's going to be more berry. It's going to be lighter. But we do have a similar undertone to it. There's definitely more blue in the Passion shade though. So those are kind of just some comparisons of ones that really, you know, as soon as I saw the Valde shades, those are the ones I thought of. So I wanted to share those with you. But if you have any requests, you know, please be sure to let me know and I'll try to feature them in a future video or, you know, maybe a reel or something on Instagram. If you're not following me on Instagram, I'm at Alexis Jong. I'm also on TikTok at Lexi Jong. So definitely follow me there. That's where I do a lot of swatches and things like that. So preview new items and so forth. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much to Valde for sending me the refills. I absolutely love them. I think all of the colors are gorgeous and there are just so many favorites. So I'm just overall having a great day, you know, getting the brushes, the lipsticks, you know, everything. So, and I'd love to know your thoughts on the concealers as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this was helpful and have a wonderful weekend.